There's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello, BookTube. I'm Sean the Book Maniac, and welcome to another Friday Reads after a 2-week break. Well, I missed last Friday. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do one this week because I came down with COVID this week, but it was a very mild case. I'm no longer a COVID virgin, so I don't have very many virginities left, people, and I'm already recovered. Apparently the variation that's going around at the moment hasn't got a fever attached to it, so I was lucky. But, sore throat and headache, terrible headache for a couple days. But that's all in the past. So here I am, and I would also like to explain my absence last week, because this is more of a long-term health problem, and I don't really like talking about health, but when it impacts my ability to booktube, I have to talk about it to a certain degree. So here is what's going on. I have been battling or struggling with chronic? As soon as I say chronic, then everybody thinks of that trendy syndrome. I don't know how trendy it is, but chronic fatigue, persistent fatigue that no matter how much I sleep, I am always tired. And it has been getting worse. So that, I'm old, so I take lots of naps. That's number one. For at least the past year, maybe even longer. By the time I finish filming, editing, and posting my Friday reads, I'm kind of tired and I don't really want to do too much, and I just take the evening off. I don't usually read anything and watch some TV or catch up with friends or something, but nothing too strenuous. So that's just because I'm old. There isn't a whole lot of mental, or unless I'm lugging camera gear to go outside, there's no physical stress of doing a Friday reads. But 2 weeks ago, by the time I posted my Friday reads at around 6 o'clock, I was more exhausted than usual, and that fatigue or exhaustion lasted all of the next day. I couldn't do anything all of the next day. I couldn't read, just slept. That was a wake-up call that this fatigue thing is getting to be quite a problem. So I decided to basically take a week off reading, although I did do a little bit of reading to keep up with some buddy reads, and to not do a Friday reads last Friday, just to kind of feel myself out and what's going on. And then got COVID Monday of this week. So the COVID symptoms are gone. I'm still dealing with fatigue, but I am resolved to try anything that might work. And one of the suggestions Dr. Google has presented me, because real life doctors are not interested in fatigue. I have talked to two, and I could hardly keep them awake. I gave them chronic fatigue talking to them about my fatigue. They just said, So no blood test showed anything untoward. I tested for vitamin B level, nothing. Sorry, I'm going into more detail. I'll probably cut some of this detail out, but again, I wouldn't even be mentioning it, except that, at least temporarily, it is having an impact on my reading life and my booktube life. So the tip I got from Dr. Google is cut out napping as much as possible. Morning naps are okay, and I have been taking morning naps for a long time. Morning naps, no problem, but then no more naps for the rest of the day. Force yourself to stay awake, go to bed, and get a decent night's sleep. And there's a couple other suggestions they give that I'll try implementing one by one, but that's the first one I'm going to try. So I just woke up from a lovely morning nap because I was up early to teach a 7 a.m. class on Zoom, and I feel pretty good. So it's great to be here. Sorry for going on about it. I'm not comfortable talking about my health, but there it is. So here I am, and I'm got some coffee. I'm starting to wake up, and I have lots to tell you, even though I haven't done a whole pile of reading. I had a biblio-adventure. Anytime you hear that, I need to put a little TM trademark, because that is a expression coined by the lovely Chris and Emily over at the Book Cougars podcast. But I had some biblio-adventures, which is probably how I got COVID. The timing certainly would be right. A week ago Thursday, I went to a really big and well-attended literary event. It was a benefit for the Literacy Association in Saskatchewan. And there was some big names there. The biggest name was Sheila Rogers. And if you're not Canadian, Sheila Rogers she has recently retired. She was one of Canada's most preeminent literary broadcasters, radio broadcasters, and she's actually known beyond her bookish broadcasting. She had a book show for 20 years that she just recently retired from. But before that, she was on general public broadcasting shows, and so she's really the voice of Canada. She's a very much beloved figure, and I buy into all of that hook, line, and sinker. I adore her. She was an early champion of Indigenous rights and Indigenous literature. In fact, that's how she got reassigned to the book show, because she was doing what the CBC termed was far too much advocacy on her morning talk show, Sounds Like Canada. Not talk show, but anyway. So she quit. And then she got offered to the book show where she could talk about... And she was doing all this long before she discovered that she had a Métis great-great-grandmother, something like that. I adore her. She was there. And the writer that I was most excited to see was Trevor Herriot. He is a naturalist, nature writer in Saskatchewan. And I read his tiny little nonfiction book, Towards a Prairie Atonement, some years ago. Very much enjoyed it. I have his masterpiece on the shelf behind me. I can point to it right there, and it is called River in a Dry Land, which is all about the grasslands of the prairies. And it's a very, it's a Canadian classic, I believe. He has written his first novel, and Mom bought it as soon as the day it was published, because she's a huge fan of Trevor Herriot. And she and I are going to the official book launch, the Saskatoon book launch, next week. But he was on one of the panelists for this benefit and read from the novel, and it does actually sound quite good. There was a Métis poet, Rita Bouvier, in attendance as well, and the onstage interviews were done by the Governor General Award-winning Saskatchewan writer Guy Vanderhaeg. It was just a fantastic evening. It just made my heart sing to be in the same room as Sheila Rogers. I wanted to, and I'm glad I didn't, as it turned out, but I wanted to wait and kind of get close to her and get my picture taken, ask her to get my picture taken. She doesn't have any books that I could sign, but it's a good thing I didn't do that, because that's probably where I caught COVID. It was a large auditorium, and there's all kinds of people, although I was sitting between my mom and Kathy, my friend, and neither of them have it, so it's weird. That was a delightful evening. The next night, Kathy and I went to our second literary event, and that was the book launch for the latest offering by Adam Pottle, the deaf writer from Saskatoon. Here it is. It is a horror novel, a deaf horror novel, Apparitions, just hot off the press. The reading, I believe, was on publication day. I'm not into horror novels. I didn't know if I was going to buy a copy, but I couldn't not. It's about a deaf child, and it's based on true stories of parents who imprisoned their deaf children and just kind of locked them up in the basement and neglected them in the most horrendous way. And the protagonist of this novel is such a kid such as that, who grows up to escape and seek vengeance. So that's the kind of horror novel it is. He read from it. The writing's beautiful and literary. So during the Q&A, I actually put my hand up and asked a question tying something he'd read to his memoir, and boy, was he ever impressed with me. I was the cat's meow. So I asked him about doing an interview on Zoom or something someday, and he sounded quite interested in that, so time will tell. That was also delightful. So I got COVID one of those two places, I think, because I was never really out anywhere else. And 5 days later, on Monday, I was sick. COVID aside, those were wonderful biblio-adventures. I am behind on some things because I was been sick, and then I had such severe fatigue last week. So I am behind on putting up my video on Patreon for the first read-along of Grey Bees by Andrey Kurkov. I'm just behind, but I'm doing my best, and I should have a video up within the next week. For those of you that are waiting for it, I don't think very many of you are, but it's coming as soon as I can get it done. I have things to mail, the winners. I've heard from all the winners now of the book giveaway, and as soon as I'm my 5 day, I'm supposed to quarantine for self-isolate for 5 days. So early next week, those will go out. Stay tuned. I'm way behind on reading, so let me say another thing before I start to tell you about some new patrons. When I crashed 10 days ago and realized I just couldn't read really for a few days, and I decided that I would have to pull out of Victober. It's the withdrawal method, people. It's kind of what they used to do in the Victorian era, isn't it? And sadly, I was about to start Mary Barton by Gaskell, and I can't deal with taking on. So I'm not honoring any commitments I've made that don't involve specific buddy readers, and that will be enough to kind of I will coast on that till the end of the year and not add too much more to my plate. So in fact, the fatigue, and does it sound pretentious to say fatigue? Being so tired, I can't focus on as much as I could, so it's time to step off whatever sideshow I thought I was performing, juggling all these books, and I'm now going to focus on far fewer books and still hope to finish at least most of the books that I have been juggling, but only 1 or 2 at a time, plus whatever I'm buddy reading. I don't have the bandwidth at the moment to do that, so I'm going to stop trying to do that. So that's going to be a big change. I have 2 new patrons to tell you about. So one of them is my friend Erica from Louisiana. You may have seen her camera flip video, which was the last one to go up. Thanks for everybody who submitted camera flip videos. She's a new patron at the Book Buddy tier. Welcome, Erica. And also a new book buddy is Patricia from Mexico, my first patron from Mexico. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So yeah, I appreciate all the support on Patreon. All right, here is the 2 weeks in review.
I dove into this one, and I have to say it was one of those books that I respected more than enjoyed.
And particularly works by women that are auto-theoretical in nature. So using biography, experience, and wider social issues and themes and weaving those together, and usually in ways that are quite playful or inventive with form. So I really like those kind of books in particular. And so things that are quite driven by biography rather than plot, and really enjoy those kind of things. I also do love a nice novel as well that takes you by the hand and makes you feel like you're in a safe pair of hands being led through a plot with beautifully rendered characters. So a real mixture of different things, but I particularly like works by women and also about experiences that maybe haven't been so widely explored in literature before.
Later in Pride and Prejudice, there's a brilliant scene where Elizabeth and Darcy are dancing, and they have this really kind of electrically uncomfortable, edgy conversation with each other whilst in the course of the dance. Yeah. But where that version of Pride and Prejudice annoys me a bit is it doesn't understand the etiquette of the day. Like the idea that Elizabeth would have said to Darcy, "Do you dance?" Completely impossible. She would never have spoken to him like that, because it was always men that asked women to dance. But a man couldn't ask a woman to dance until he'd been introduced to her.
The tension in that hot tub was just so well done. I was just sitting there going, what's going on here? When is this going to happen? It was a really
hot tub.
Oh, I was sweating.
You and me both, great. Girlfriend.
It was so good.
So, I haven't been reading very much, but I have some things to tell you about. I finished The President and the Frog by Carolina de Robertis, and I have had my chat with the lovely Alba of Seriella. Stay tuned for that video. Mostly what I've been reading is Grey Bees, but I'm still not very far into it, but it's all I'm really going to be reading, so I will finish it. Translated from the Russian by Boris Dralyak, and I am loving it. It's meant to be read slowly. I sure the hell am reading it slowly, and I'll have lots more to say about it. So stay tuned. Another book that I'm just over halfway done is this collection of short stories by Marian Engel, the Tattooed Woman. This is for my series of annual chats. This will be the third year going of discussions with other fabulous readers on the works of the Canadian writer Marian Engel, who died in about 1980, I think, 1985. And she is most prominently the author of The Bear, and this is one of her collections of short fiction. And so this discussion is with Dorian and with James, and this year on the panel, on the Marian Engel panel, is Chris from the Bookworkers. So we're having that chat in early November, and I'm half done, so I got to keep up the pace to be ready for that chat. Oh, and so this is a good chance to just remind you, I'll put a link in the show notes, that the book launch for James Morrison's debut novella is coming up next Saturday. Do check out the Eventbrite link. I am the host, together with Dorian. It's going to be a fabulous online event. Check out the link for more details. The meat of today's Friday Reads, other than all the news that I have had, is to talk about 3 books that I'm a ways into. One of them is a buddy read, and I asked my buddy reader Sonia if I could take this current week off, because I didn't want to read this with only half of my reading focus intact, so pick it back up next week. But oh my god, I love this reread so much. The Go-Between by L.P. Hartley. Buddy read with Sonia of an enthusiastic reader. It's even better than I remembered. I studied this in 1985, I think. I think it was 1985, as an undergrad here at the University of Saskatchewan, and I remember how much I loved it. I remember the opening line, I remember the very basic premise, but that's all I remember. I'm doing this as an audio text combo, and it's just gorgeous. The writing is so gorgeous. You probably know that it's about I don't know how old he is, 11-year-old British boy who goes to spend the summer. The school closes for a few weeks at the boarding school because of measles. He and his one chum don't have the measles, so he spends those 2 weeks at his rich friend's estate, and eventually he gets involved in helping the older sister of his friend carry on an illicit love affair by acting as a go-between, carrying messages back and forth is the premise. And oh, the writing is just so lush. I don't know what happened to L.P. Hartley. He wrote his last novel was some gay trash that was just about made me vomit. It was so poorly written. This, on the other hand, is a masterpiece. I am, oh, look at how lovely this goes with my blouse today. I'm just lapping it up. 2 library books that I'm reading that are due soon. This one I've got, in fact, this one's already overdue, but I think I can finish it off in the next few days. This is a French novel that won the Prix Goncourt for first novels. Tomorrow They Won't Dare to Murder Us by Joseph Andras. Andras, translated by Simon Lesser. Oh my god, this is so good. Boy, this novel is certainly timely to read. This is set in Algeria, and the protagonist is a Frenchman who is a rebel on the side of the Algerian rebels. You can debate the terminology. He's a terrorist. He gets caught trying to plant a bomb at work, and the bomb was to have gone off in an empty building, so it was to make a statement without killing or injuring anybody, but it doesn't go off. He gets caught, and he is tortured. The characters are this guy, his Polish-French wife, and some other Muslim Algerian members of the resistance movement, the anti-colonialists. It is just so incredibly well written and gripping. Andras won the Prix Goncourt. He himself is French. He doesn't have any any Algerian connection. I don't know if he lived there at one time, but he is French as they come, and he refused the award for the Prix Goncourt for this. So he's a very countercultural, anti-establishment writer, and boy, this is giving me a whole bunch of things to chew on, as well as just being a rollicking good read. at this time with all that's going on in the world. And finally, this one is the one that has just grabbed me. I mean, this other one has grabbed me, but this one has really grabbed me. This is the play by Tom Stoppard, Leopoldstadt. It's his latest play, and he says it might be his last play, although I think he's since changed his mind about that. It was first debuted in London in 2020 and then went to Broadway, and I'm sure I heard Anna Bailey Karras talk about it. It must have been on one of her podcast episodes. And so I borrowed this from the library, and it's I think I'm the first person to read it. If I cover this up, it looks like a brand new book. Oh my God, this is good. And I don't read plays. I mean, I do once in a blue moon, but this is like reading a novel. It's set at the turn of the 20th century with a bunch of Jewish or formerly Jewish. This play explores that. Is that even possible? But characters, two families in Vienna around the year, it's Christmas time, 1899. And half of these characters have been baptized Catholic because of the anti-Semitism in Austria at that time. And again, there's so many issues here that you can't help but reflecting on what's going on. And it's just so dramatic. Holy smokes. Adultery and honor and Jewish identity and the first rumblings of Zionism, and it opens with all these Jewish or formerly Jewish characters at their grandma's house decorating a Christmas tree on Christmas Eve. So I mean, it's just absolutely fascinating. I hope they make it into a movie or I get a chance to see the play someday, but reading the script it's just like reading a novel. Absolutely. It's as good as a novel just to read it, and I'm about halfway through it, and it's a page turner. And what am I going to start next? I'm going to be very cautious about announcing, because all of the stuff I announced I was going to start last Friday reads, on the last Friday reads 2 weeks ago, I have decided I'm not going to start. So really, all you're going to hear me announce for a while are any previous buddy read commitments I have or library books that come due. Other than that, I'm just going to slowly, read what I already have in progress for the next while. But here's one that's due at the library, the University Library, and in order for me to renew it, I'd have to take it to the library and get it renewed because it's been renewed 3 times. So I might as well read it, and that's this short gay novel with the ugly man on the cover, Who Lies Inside by Timothy Ireland. I previewed this on a recent vlog and was surprised at how much I loved the first 10 pages, so let's read it. All right, it is wonderful to be back. This is an experiment for me to see how tired it makes me. I'll post this, see how today and tomorrow goes, but I think if I forbid myself from having any more naps today, maybe I'll be all right. Or, I think it'll be more manageable. That's what's going on here. What's going on there? Thanks for watching.